Hello, my fellow comic book collectors. This is another in my series of videos where I look at DC versus Marvel and who will reign supreme. In this, I'll be looking at two very similar characters, kind of rip-off characters, that I think are really a good match for each other between DC and Marvel because they are so similar. These characters so rip off. This is a really rip off character. So I'm going to show you the two books. So I'm going to show you Marvel's first, because last time I showed DC's first. So this time I'm going to show Marvel's first. Marvel's character is Deadpool, and Deadpool made his first appearance in this book, New Mutants '98. And this book is a really hot book. Everybody loves Deadpool. He is just a really great character. There's been 2 Deadpool movies. Just a really hot character. And this book came out in 1991, right at that peak, not that peak, but at the 90s boom in terms of comics. So there's a lot of these that have been printed. It's just a big book, really popular book. So we got that, which is New Mutants '98, first appearance of Deadpool. So we're going to compare that to the DC one. This is New Teen Titans #2, and this is the first appearance of Deathstroke. This is a much older book, actually. This is from 1980, so 11 years earlier. And this book is really like Deathstroke and Deadpool, both have sort of that death in their name, but also so many similarities. I really feel that Deadpool is a ripoff of Deathstroke, and they're both these kind of cool characters. So Deathstroke made his first appearance in this book. He's in the background there. So he's sort of like those iconic characters that from DC. He's been featured in the TV series, and he's one of those characters. I think he's been in Green Arrow. He's been used multiple times within DC's TV series. He hasn't had a movie necessarily. I don't think so. I can't think of him in any of the movies, but he is actually. I'm mistaken about that. In the Snyder Cut, he did make an appearance in the movie. So he is a character that also had his movie appearances. But he never had, like Deadpool did, a movie devoted to him. He's never at that level. So a little bit lesser of the two characters between Deadpool and Deathstroke. He's the lesser of the two in terms of popularity. But he is one that is pretty iconic. So with that being said, let's look into the numbers and see who wins in terms of all the figures. So as I said, this came out in 1980. I'm going to be comparing 9.0, even though I don't have a 9.0, but I think that's a reasonable grade to compare with because there's a lot of graded copies of both of these books, and that 9.0 is kind of that higher, more prestigious book. A lower grade, they're pretty cheap actually for both. So let's look at the numbers. So in a 9.0, this is the 8.5. Actually, the 9.0 and the 8.5 have the same price. So it was kind of convenient. So a 9.0 in this book goes for $260. Now there's, on the census, there's 5,612 copies of this book on the census. In the 9.0, there's 536 of these on the census for a 9.0. So that's pretty common book. It's, like 5,000 of them. So pretty common book. But let's compare that to New Mutants. New Mutants '98. Now these were printed like so much in the 90s. Like 90s were, those massive print runs. So on the census, there was 21,593. So roughly 4 times as many of New Mutants 98 compared to New Teen Titans number 2. So just massive, more of these on the census. And we have in this grade of a 9.0, I should say, there's 1,696 of them. So there's just a lot of high graded copies of New Mutants 98. And the value, though, the value of New Mutants 98 is $475, which is about twice the value of the Deathstroke book. So DC loses again in terms of price. And in my feelings about the two books, I always feel like it's a little sad about DC, but Deathstroke is one of those characters that has potential. He really does. He's very similar to Deadpool in many ways. He's got that potential, but I don't feel that DC is going to utilize him. I don't feel like they're going to be as prone to utilize him as they have been, as Marvel has been with Deadpool. I don't see that there's going to be a Deathstroke movie anytime soon. And generally, DC movies are kind of weak, so they don't do as well. So I don't really see as much potential in this book. I don't see this book having that huge climb. So on the spec, I'm going to give it to Marvel in this case. And the reason I say that is Ryan Reynolds signed a contract. He's going to be making multiple Deadpool movies coming forward. And I think there's a lot of potential that Deadpool could appear in the MCU, which would even make it bigger. Just a lot of potential for the New Mutants. So I think this book, even though it's a much more common book, has a lot more potential to continue to climb. It's one of those books that's been a little bit soft lately, and it's one that could potentially go up in value. So I'm actually, if I was going to spec on either one of these, I'd pick the New Mutants 98. So what do you think? Who do you think should have won this battle? I mean, if you look at the numbers, the value should be into the DC. DC has more potential to grow. But if you look at who gets more utilized, it's really the Marvel book, the Deadpool. So I'd love to hear your opinions on these two books, and what specs or what two would you like to see battled? And I'll give you the whole breakdown of the numbers and show you my feedback about which one is truly the victor in this battle between DC and Marvel. So thanks again for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And check out my other videos. I'll link one of them somewhere at the bottom, and you can check that out. And again, thank you for watching. Bye for now.